Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this webinar presentation of Grove Parkview Apartment Homes. I am Nkem Izamama. I'm an ER physician. I'm CEO and founder of Pheenyx Capital Investment, and I am really excited to share this new investment opportunity with you. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the continued support. It's really nice to see familiar faces, but also to see new faces. It's just awesome how everyone has just come together, rallied around Pheenyx. And so I'm really excited to be here. The one thing I ask is today, don't hold back. Ask any questions. If there's anything that is confusing in what I talk about, just go ahead and just put it in the Q&A or in the chat. But at the end of this, I'd love to answer any of your questions. So just to go right in. So we closed our last deal about right now, July of 2023. So it was about a year ago, and we have been looking for the next great opportunity. We reviewed over 1,000 deals, and we underwrote several hundreds. And we were very excited when we found Grove Parkview. And I remember it, we got the financials one evening, maybe a month and a half ago. And then we just underwrote it right away. We loved the numbers. It made sense. And our partners and we put in an offer and we got the deal. So I want to delve into the numbers today, but I also want to walk you through our journey, how we got here today as Pheenyx and how we're getting to share this amazing opportunity. I've been talking with a lot of you who have been considering joining in, and you've kind of been on the sidelines. So I'm really excited to be able to bring this amazing opportunity to you. So if you're ready to go, if you're considering it, at some point, we're going to put a link in the chat. So just go ahead, and that is the link to the portal. And in the portal, you'll be able to sign in. And when you click sign in, you can create a username. And then from there, one of us will be in touch with you. So I'm excited to kind of jump in right now and talk about this. And like I said, if you have any questions, feel free. So before we jump in, our lawyers make sure that I have to tell you this disclosure. So I'm not a financial advisor or a lawyer or an accountant, but my goal today is to present this information to you and then for you to do your due diligence. There'll be a recording of this. And then also, most of you should have already received the investor deck, but if you didn't, you'll get it with the recording. And I wanted to also say that this investment is only for accredited investors. And so that's something that I just wanted to preface from the start. Okay, the question on your mind today is, how did I get here today? Like, how is an ER physician telling you about Grove Parkview? And the truth is that it all started with COVID-19. And I don't know, it seems like a distant past, but for some of us, it's a very near reality. And during COVID-19, it was a very hard season for us in the ER. And in the emergency room, it started gently, and it started with us losing hours. So we went from full-time to part-time to like barely working. And those loss in hours, they really resulted in loss in wages. And then, before I knew it, our colleagues started getting second, third jobs. And it's because to some degree, they were living paycheck to paycheck. And that just became a very harsh reality for some of us, but it even got worse. Some of my colleagues lost their jobs, and one of my really close friends, she lost her job. And I remember like it was yesterday. She was at work, she got an email, and within 24 hours, she found out that she was getting let go. And she wasn't the only one, there were two of them. And so that was the start to realizing that I could not rely on one employer as my only source of income. And it didn't even stop there, it got worse. We started, our pay structure changed. And so how we got paid completely changed. And so it just almost kept stacking on each other. And I knew it was in that season that I knew that I had to find a way out. I had to figure out a way to really build wealth that did not rely on my W-2 or my 9-to-5. And that's really where passive investing started. In the United States and even worldwide, a lot of wealth comes through real estate. And I quickly learned that real estate investing was a really good way to preserve your capital and still yield a great return. And so that's how it started for me. And that's how I'm here today talking to you about this awesome opportunity. I started just like a passive investor. I started as a passive investor just like you. I was sitting here listening to a webinar, and I realized that this is one of the ways that I was going to use to really significantly grow wealth. So I started reading, I started learning, I started educating, and then I jumped in. I invested in one, and then it built from there as a passive investor. And I realized that it was at the point that I started empowering others that I realized that wasn't just a way for me, but it was a way for our community, for other healthcare professionals to really jump in and start building wealth. And that is how Pheenyx was born. Pheenyx really was created as a mission to help other healthcare professionals build wealth outside of their 9 to 5, outside of their W-2, and for us to really take ownership back. So we've invested in 3 properties, and this is Grove Parkview is our 4th one. And I'm just excited to be able to share this amazing opportunity with you. And I remember, like I told you, I remember being a newbie investor, and I was so afraid to jump in. You know, I said, what if this, what if that? But I did it. I did my research. I made a calculated risk. I learned about the team. I learned about the people who would be operating the deal. And then I jumped in. I took a leap. And that's really how I got here today, plus the story I just told you. And so I'm really excited right now to be able to add Grove Parkview to our portfolio. You know, this is truly the start of passive income generation. This is what it looks like. And for some of you who are listening today, this is your first start. So to be able to see what we've grown at Pheenyx Capital and to see all the investors that have come in, some of you listening in on this call have been able to come in such a short, amazing time. It has just been really, really impeccable. And it's just been very amazing to see what we've been able to grow. And now passive investing and generational wealth is something that we talk about and something that we're really going after. And Grove Parkview is the beginning for some of you. So with all of that, now let's jump into this investment opportunity. This was me at right outside of Atlanta, Grove Parkview, a few weeks ago. We went and we did due diligence, and it was really the start to really understanding how amazing this property is. So it is a 268 unit apartment complex. It's in Gwinnett County, and Gwinnett County is one of the largest counties in Georgia. And in the last 3 years, about almost 30,000 people have moved in. And it's a submarket that is just really thriving. There's tons of economic drivers that are coming in. You know, you have Amazon distribution, you have new EV plants that are coming in. You have just a bunch of really cool, amazing businesses, and healthcare is also a really large sector. But it gets even better than that. It's the school district. So Grove Parkview Apartment Homes is zoned for Parkview High School, which is one of the top high schools in Georgia. So along with all those other things, these are the reasons why this is just a really amazing opportunity. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. So I want to highlight some of the important things about the property. The purchase price is $49.1 million. It is 96% occupied, and it's been above 93 for about the last 8 years. And the deal, our hold time, we're going to hold it for about 5 years, and our interest rate is 4.7%. So for those of you who are trying to buy in this market, you know that for residential properties, interest rate is about inching at like high 7s, low 8s. And for commercial, it's mid 6s, going up to even high 6s. And so to be able to acquire this at 4.7% interest rate fixed for the whole term is just amazing. And as an investor, your average annual return is around 15.5% to 18%. And those are just conservative numbers. And I'll tell you why, and I'll show you. So if you think about it, when you invest in this property, at the end of the hold, you're going to make at least 1.5 times to 1.8 times your investment. And so, you know, before our other deals, we just had one equity structure, one type of investment, and one type of investment structure that all investors came into. But we listened to our investors, and they said, bring us different types, so different ways that we can really leverage the growth. So now in this deal, we have 3 structures. The first one is Class A, and the Class A investors are those investors who just want cash flow. They're not concerned about profit share, what will happen at the end. They're just saying, I want the 10% preferred return that you're going to give me on a yearly basis, and that's it. The minimum investment for that is $100,000. And if you're listening in this call and you're asking, well, what is preferred return? Preferred return is the cash flow that you as an investor will get before me as the operator will get anything. So any type of returns that's coming to me, you're going to get that preferred return first. And then for Class B and Class C, which I'll tell you about, then there's a profit split. But so for Class B, the preferred return is 6%, and then the split is 80-20. So you as an investor, you're going to keep 80%, and then 20% is going to come to the operators. And the minimum investment for that is about $50,000. The minimum investment is $50,000. So Class C investors, these are for your large check investors who want to take a bigger risk, but know that they want bigger return. So for them, the preferred return is going to be 7%. And then the profit split is going to be 90-10. And that makes sense because, like I said, if you risk more, you should absolutely get more. And the minimum investment for that is $750,000. So we, one of my investors that we talked to this deal to them about, they kind of asked a question, and I wanted to answer that question on this webinar today because I thought it was very important. And they asked, why would the investors get 80% and why would we get 20%? What is the motivation behind that? And that's a really good question. And the answer is that you as an investor, you are putting a significant amount of capital into the deal. And so you should get a significant amount of the returns. And the deal is structured in such a way that you as the investor, you are protected and you are also incentivized. So you get 80% of the returns so after you hit that 6% preferred return, then you get 80% of the returns and we get 20. And you get 80% until we hit another hurdle. And the second hurdle that we hit is an IRR of 16%, which translates to an average annual return of about 18%, which at that point, you would almost double your returns. So in 5 years, if you can double your return, then the structure changes. So then it goes to 50-50. So you get 50, we get 50. And at that point, we know that we've done a really, really good job. And that's when the split is 50-50. So that's just what you're seeing on the screen here, which is a partnership structure for Class B and Class C. And if at any point you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And we'll definitely, I'll get to all the questions and answer them. So I wanted to touch on how much is allocated in each class. So for the Class A shares, the allocation is $2 million. And for Class B, it's about $14.7 million. And for Class C, it's about $6 million in equity raise. So the capital stack is important because after we get income that comes into the property and expenses are taken out, what's left is your net operating income. And from there, debt is paid first. And then if you look at the capital stack right here, debt's paid first. And then after that, those Class A investors, they get paid next. And that's because they're saying, we don't want any of the profit share. We just want that cash flow coming in. So they'll get paid first. And then after that, you have the Class B and Class C. And then after that, the operators get paid. So this is a capital stack when you think about how cash flow is allocated. Next thing we'll talk about is our business plan. What is our plan when we go in, when we purchase the property, and how do we plan to manage it? So a lot of investors have asked, what is your business plan? What is your renovation plan? What do you plan to do? And we plan to do a value add strategy. That's what we're going to implement. So we're going in and we plan to do an exterior renovation and an interior renovation. For the exterior renovation, our budget is about $800,000, and we're going to add a dog park because it is something that's really needed in that community because there are a lot of pets. So we'll add that. We will upgrade the pool. We will also upgrade the playground. We will update the car wash. There's a car wash area within the apartment complex, so we'll update that. We'll go in. We'll renovate some of the roofs as they get due. And then we'll do HVAC as well. So that's some of our plans for our exterior renovation. And we'll also do some window replacements as well. And then the big thing that we're going in there is our interior renovation. So we plan to renovate about 105 units. And we're going in there. So we when we acquire these assets, we do something called a comparative analysis, and we look at what other properties in the area that are about the same vintage, so the same age, the same kind of square footage, and we'll look at their renovated units and see what they're going for. And so when we renovate, we know that we can try to get to that market rent of what the people around us are charging. So we did that, but what's also really cool is that within the property, the prior sellers had already renovated about like 140 something units. And so we had, proof of concept inside of the apartment complex itself. So we know that based on the renovation plan that has happened before, we can go in and execute on that same plan. And based on what the sellers were getting, we know that we can get a rent premium from anywhere from like $250 to almost $400 on renovation premiums on each apartment complex that we go in and renovate. So our value add plan will actually increase the value of the property by almost 19.6 million. But also, when we went to due diligence, what we noticed is that the sizes between the studio and the one bedroom, the square footage, it wasn't that much significant. And so we plan to convert some of the studios that had not been renovated. We're going to renovate and convert them to one bedrooms. And so we'll be able to get rent for those one bedroom apartments as well after we've converted them from the studio. So we have really cool plans for the interior renovation. And we will move on to financial analysis. So I want to spend a little bit of time on this because this is how we kind of decided on how we projected on what we're doing with the property. So first of all, I'll talk about debt. So I told you the cost of the property is 49.1 million and our loan amount is 31.5. And our loan to value is 64%. If you think about, a lot of you on this call have bought homes and, sometimes you're, highly leveraged where you only put down maybe 10% or 20% and the bank gives you the rest. We are actually, we're bringing in significant equity into the deal. And so our loan to value is only about 64%, which makes the deal less risky because we're less leveraged. And like I told you before, it's a fixed interest rate, 4.74%, and we're using Fannie Mae. That's our mortgage financier that we're using. We're going to hold it for about 5 years. So this is a part of the financial analysis that I really did want to spend a little bit of time kind of explaining. This is a little more nuanced, but it's important that we go over it in a little bit of detail. So these are some of the assumptions that we made on the property on how it's going to project, what it's going to do in the next 5 years. So these are projections that we made in order to be able to get us some of the returns that we think we're going to get. And so in the last 3 months, vacancy, I told you that they're at 96%, but even in the last 3 months, vacancy has been at about 2.7%. But we projected vacancy of 6% because we wanted to be a lot more conservative in our underwriting. Also, delinquency is really good. It was at about 1.4%, but we projected we doubled that. So it's a little under 2.6%. But we did that to show you that the effective gross income in the last 3 months annualized over the last year was 5 million. But we're going in there saying that in our year zero, once we take over, that the effective gross income is going to be about 4.8 million. And so we are making sure that the deal is even more conservative. Another thing that we did is that we, our property manager, we talked to them and they kind of told us that, where rent growth has been in the last 3 months is about 3%. And so year over year, it's about 6%, just organic rent growth. So how the property, how rent is growing over time without us doing anything. But in our first year, we went in saying that we're going to project the rent growth to be at 3%, but we're also going to project expense growth to be at 3%. And so that cancels it out. So we're saying that going in, we're not going to make any organic rent growth, and all our rent growth is going to come from renovations and the forced appreciation that we're doing on the property. So that's another thing that we factored in, just how conservative our underwriting is. And I am even more conservative than my partners. And so when I underwrote this deal, without any assistance from any of our other team members, the deal still made sense and the numbers still made sense. And so when our property manager added all the extra, kind of all the extra recommendations, it just made the deal even worth it. But from the beginning, we got assistance from them and we got, their input in all our numbers and all our projections moving forward. And then I just also wanted to point out to this. So this is our part of our performance. This is part of our underwriting again, and it projects from year 0 to year 5 what our net operating income is going to be. So remember, I told you that our plan was value add. We're going to go in and we're going to renovate and we're going to increase rent, and that will translate to, you know, the tenants being very excited, very happy. They're in better living conditions, but that also translates to a higher net operating income for the property, which then translates to increase in value. So when we increase the net operating income from 2.4 million to 3.5 million, that's an increase of about 1.1 million. We increase the value of the property by almost 20 million. So that's the power of what we're going in there and what we're planning to execute on. When we are going into a deal, one of the things that we really do is that we stress test a deal. We see best case scenario and we see worst case scenario. And I think that's very, very important. In the beginning, when I talked about the highlights, our cap rate going in, which is really the rate of return that is expected to be generated on the property. We're going in at a cap rate of 5.3 and we're exiting at a cap rate of 5.3. But CoStar, which is a nationwide data source, they're saying that they expect us to exit at a cap rate of 4.6%. And so if you notice, cap rate is inversely proportional to the price. So as cap rate goes down, the value of the property goes up, and as cap rate goes up, the value of the property goes down. So we're saying, if you look at the dark blue, we're saying that these are the numbers that we projected. We said we'd stay flat, and based on our value add, based on what we're doing to the property, we're going to increase the property value to about 68 million, which is about 20 million above what we're buying it for. And then, but CoStar is saying that we're actually going to exit at 4.6%, which the exit price will be 78 million. And that significantly improves the numbers on the deal. But like I told you, and I meant it, we are very conservative. And so these numbers are the numbers that we know that investors are still going to get a good return. And so if we do better, even great. But I would be very wary to bring you a deal and tell you that we're going to get an average annual return of about 23% off the bat. But and I would question that. I would want anyone looking at that deal to look at it in detail and scrutinize it. Not that you're not already doing that, but that is what I would caution you to do. So we go in and say, even based on our underwriting, based on the numbers that we're projecting, this is what we're going to get, knowing that it could get a lot better. So the next couple of slides we'll talk about, is going to just talk about example investments of what it looks like if you are a Class A investor, a Class B investor, a Class C investor, and what a $100,000 investment could look like. So for the first one, I told you Class A, they're not going to get any profit share. They're just going to get their 10% preferred return year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, and that's where you get the 10,000 from. And then at sale, they'll get return of their capital, which is where that 100,000 comes in. So in total, they would put 100,000 in and get 150,000 out. And that's where, with a 10% preferred return and an equity multiple of 1.5. And then this is a Class B investor who invests 100,000, and this is a sample, a case scenario of what the returns could look like. And so on a yearly basis, they would get distribution to a pref of 6%, and after that, at time of sale, you would get return of the capital, and then you would get profit share, which is where you get that 49,000. And so in total, between what you invested, all your distributions, plus your profit share, you would get about 177,000 going in. So the way kind of I look at this property is more of a long-term mindset. And so you are going in knowing that you're going to be getting cash flow with distributions on a yearly basis. And then at time of sales, when you really see that profit share, as well as your return on your capital. Return of your capital. And so that's what that looks like. So based on those numbers, you would be looking at an average annual return of about 15.5% with an equity multiple of 1.78. So you went in with 100 and you're coming out with about 177,000. And then this is a sample Class C deal. So that looks at, if you invested 750,000, which is the minimum, you would come out with almost 1.9 times what you put in, at a 7% pref and an average annual return of 18.1%. So this is maybe one of my favorite topics, which is bonus depreciation. So one of the great things about real estate investing and even investing in multifamily apartments is you get cash flow, you get appreciation, but then you also get significant tax benefits. And that's what makes this even better. So imagine if you invested $100,000 in the property the first year and you got your cash flow. And then at the end of the year, you got a tax return that says you got $27,000 in paper losses. That's the power of investing in assets like these. But then how is that possible? It's possible through something called bonus depreciation. So there was a law that was passed by President Trump a few years ago that allowed real estate investors to claim depreciation losses that the building gains over a period of time, but to get all of that, to claim all of that in the first year. So every time that we buy these new buildings, we do something called a cost segregation, and we get a cost segregation expert who comes and depreciates the value of everything in the building. And the only thing that they cannot depreciate is the land and the physical structure. But this can be done every time that we buy a new property. So in the past, you were supposed to claim that depreciation over like 27.5 years, 27 and a half years, but now you can claim that in the first year. When the law was passed, you could claim everything like the full 100% year one, but the law is phasing out now. So we are at 60%. And the plan is for it to completely phase back out. So you don't lose the depreciation, you just don't get all of it in year one. And so that right now in 2024, if you invest at 100,000, that's where the 27,000 in depreciation comes from. But the really amazing thing is that this $27,000 you can apply to any of your passive losses. So any of your passive income that's coming in, you can apply this depreciation. So all of the cash flow in this property, if you're investing in any other properties, anything else that brings you passive income, this can be applied to it. But then it gets really better. There is another law in Congress right now that is saying that they want to bring back 100% bonus depreciation, because it's really such a great tax benefit. So right now, the law hasn't passed. If it does, I will let you know. But if it does, it will be retroactive for the last 2 years. So 80% and 100% the year before, you could claim that. So, and if the law passes, that 27,000 could really now look like 40,000. So if you think about it, all the cash flow that's coming from this property is tax-free because of depreciation. That's the really cool thing, and that's what makes it really, really amazing. Not only that you're getting cash flow, but you're also getting depreciation and appreciation. So we will talk a little bit about market analysis. So when in Pheenyx, we do webinars every other month. And one of the things that I teach to new investors or people that are interested in investing in multifamily real estate is how do we find these properties? And one of the things that we focus on is location, location, location. Look, I sing that into everyone who is, on our webinars or who's listening, or whenever I teach or whenever I talk about podcasts. And even in location, we look at job growth, population growth, rent growth, and Gwinnett County fits the bill. By 2040, it's going to be the largest county in Georgia. And even with that, there's, like I told you before, there's a great mix of employers. So healthcare is a big driver. I told you Amazon distribution is coming in, the electric car plants is coming in, and then there's mixed use centers that are just popping up. And so it's a really amazing submarket in the Atlanta MSA that's significantly growing, and it's continuing to grow. And in that growth, while we own this property, projected rent growth is going to be at about 15%. But remember when I told you in our underwriting, we projected for about 3%. And that just speaks to how conservative we are. But based on what the market is doing and just how amazing the Atlanta MSA is, so Atlanta and the surrounding counties, it just shows that it's poised for significant growth. And then one of the best things about this, there's one of our investors used to live in Nashville, and she was leaving Nashville and she was moving to Georgia. And her and her family picked Gwinnett County, and they picked it for the school district. And they specifically picked it for Parkview High School, which is where Grove Apartment is zoned for. So it's a really, really amazing school district, and it's doing really well. And a lot of families are moving to the area, like really for the school district. When we buy, or when we look for places that we're going to buy in, we want each tenant, or each tenant to be able to pay for their rent 3 times what their what their gross income is, so what they're making. And so the median household income around this apartment is 89 to about 108,000, based on a 1 to 5 mile radius. And so the people around there, it really is centered around a really affluent demographic. And the household value for the home value in that area is about 410,000. So it's just a really cool landscape where the apartment complex is located in, and it's very highly educated, high paying employment opportunities. Those are the type of people that we see, and those are the families that are living in the area, and those are the people that are renting from us. So that's a little bit about market analysis. One of the things, if you are thinking about, if you're in the Atlanta MSA, if you're in the Atlanta region and you want to go and take a look at the property, we welcome it. We love when our investors go check out the property, and I've had a lot of our investors go take a look at the property. Even as much as this past weekend, an investor went to look at the property and they really liked it. So if you're in the area, take a look at it, go drive by. It really is a beautiful neighborhood, a beautiful apartment complex. And if you go there during office hours, they'll gladly show you around. Just let me know. You can plan it yourself, or you let me know and I'll take care of it. But a few weeks ago, I talked to a physician investor and his wife. I told them about the deal, and they were really excited about it. But then I didn't hear from them for a little bit, and I didn't know that they were doing their due diligence. They went without telling me, they went to take a look at the property. And one Monday evening, I got this text message from him, and I wanted to read it to you because it just really spoke to how excited he was, how amazing the property was, and how awesome the investment opportunity is. And by the way, he's a brand new investor to multifamily real estate investing. So he said, "We visited the Grove Parkview apartments. Highlights include established in 1988. The current office complex is only about 3 years old. Monthly public activities for residents, swimming pool and gym around the office complex, and accessible to tenants with cards. Strategically wooded with lots of shades for residents. Studio to 3-bedroom options. Very neat compound on 5 acreage ground. Office staff 7 with 75 years experience, including the manager who has been there for 20 years and more. Totally impressed with their customer service. No dull moments, definitely positive vibes. My wife and I are completely sold on this." And I was just really excited to read this, and I asked him if I could share it with you guys, and he said absolutely. But it really brings us joy at Pheenyx to be able to bring opportunities like this to our investors, and to go out there and really start building wealth. So I wanted to take a little bit of time and talk to you about who our partners are, and who we're teaming up with for this awesome opportunity. And one of our strategic partners is Pheenyx Capital, and I can't say enough amazing things about them. The team is made up of Dr. Julius Oni, Leslie Awasam, and Tenny Tolafari. And it's really cool. It's a full circle moment for me, because I started off with them as passive investors, and then they became one of my mentors. And then now to be equal partners on the deal is just really amazing. But they really are, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, they're really the definition of success, and they continue to be trailblazers in the space. And they're growing, and it's just really cool to be able to partner with them on this incredible opportunity. And then our other partners are Chris Lento with EM Capital and Brad Kanjamila with Crest City Capital. And these people are fantastic to work with. And it's really amazing what we've done as a team so far and what we plan to accomplish. And this is our asset management team. So Asset Living is our asset management team, and they are a national property management firm, and they have a very strong presence in Georgia, We've worked with them in the past on our other properties. So it was just a great, transition for them to come into this property as well. And we worked with them on due diligence. They were there. We looked at every single apartment complex. We looked at every single rental contract. We looked at the roof. We looked at landscaping. We looked at all the plans that we were going to do, what we were going to bring, and how we were going to transform the property. And they were there with us every step of the way. And remember the investor who wrote that testimonial, who talked about the property manager, the on-site property management team that had been there for like combined 75 years experience. That lady is Miss Cynthia, and she's the manager on site, and she's been there for over 20 years. And I got to meet her, and she's fantastic. She knows at least 90% of the residents by name. She knows the people that she works with. And it's really cool because we're taking over the entire staff. So we're not bringing in new staff. We're just continuing with what's already there. And so it just makes the foundation a lot more solid. And we're really excited about that. So as I wrap up, this is a project timeline. So subscription documents became available almost exactly a month ago. Our deadline for investing is July 31st. And then the deadline for funding is August 1st, with a tentative plan to close August 7th. That's our plan. So in the next slide, you'll see a QR code. The next steps are simple. Log in to the portal, fill it out, sign in, sign up, create a profile, and then go in, sign the subscription documents, and then transfer the funds, and then sit back while we do the work, and you enjoy and watch your investment grow and enjoy your returns. So if you're ready to jump in right now, like I said, just scan this QR code. And as soon as you scan it and you create a login and you create an account, one of our team members will call you. They'll walk you through the whole process and be able to answer any questions that you have at all. And I'll make sure to drop the link. So if you can't scan the QR code, I'll just put the link in the chat as well. But what does it look like to invest with Pheenyx today, or on this Grove Parkview investment opportunity? By investing in the deal, if you did invest $100,000, it looks like $15,500 in annual passive income that's coming in over the life of the deal, $27,000 in depreciation, and that could increase if that law gets passed, and I'll definitely let you guys know about that. You will get monthly performance updates, so you will learn. You'll get firsthand knowledge on, how the property is doing and what the financials look like, what we're spending, what renovations look like. You get all of that on a monthly basis, and then you'll be able to get quarterly distributions, which I went over. But even more than that, you'll get exclusive access to the Pheenyx community, and you'll be able to start the process, or start the mindset to start the growth of passive income generation and wealth building. You will also get early access to all our future deals. So anytime that we're traveling to look at a property, you'll know about it. Anytime that a deal comes on that we really love, we'll let you know about it. And so you will get first access, and then you will be co-owner of this institutional grade asset, which is Grove Parkview apartment homes. So that is what it looks like if you decide today to join us. And this will be your first step. So I will stop here, but before I stop, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the last 45 minutes. Thank you for taking the time to go through this investment opportunity with me. I really appreciate it. You heard my story, and you heard how passive investing, how I began, and how passive investing became part of my story. This can be part of your story as well. So I'm really excited for you to start the journey with us. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the evening. So I will open it up to questions. I'll stop sharing. I'll open it up to questions. And please let me know if you have any questions at all. I'd love to answer it. If there's anything that was unclear, toss your questions in the chat, toss your questions in the comments, and I'll be able to answer it. So at this point, I will stop sharing. Okay. And also, I will put okay, someone asked, you mentioned accredited investor. What does that mean? So anonymous attendee, Accredited investor is a securities exchange. It's from the Securities Exchange Commission. And it says that for you to be an accredited investor, for you to be able to invest in this property, you have to make $200,000 in income. If you are single, you needed to have made that the last 2 years. And you are pretty sure that this year you will also be able to make $200,000 single, or $300,000 with your spouse, or $1 million in net worth. So you're worth over $1 million, but that excludes your primary home, and it also excludes any of your vehicles as well. And then someone else asked, other than cash, how can you invest in the deal? That is another really great question. So some of the ways that you can invest in this property, let me take that off. Some of the ways that you can invest, obviously you can invest in cash, and that was good that you pointed that out, but you can also invest with a self-directed IRA. So that's something that a lot of investors don't know about, but you can actually convert your traditional 401k from your employer and convert that to a self-directed IRA, and then you can invest in whatever securities you want through that. And so you can invest in multifamily real estate investing, you can invest in Grove Parkview through that means. And that is something that a lot of investors are not aware of. But if that's something that you think that you want to use, or that's a vehicle that you think you have access to, then please reach out to us. We have some custodians who will be able to walk you through that process and kind of make it easy for you. So that's, and if, like I said, we have 2 people that we really like, that we've worked closely with, and that our investors have used in the past, and it's been a very successful process for them. So that is something else. As well. And I told you guys that I will put the portal link in the chat. So if you, I'll put it in the chat and make sure that everyone has access to it. So that's the portal again that I talked about. That was a QR code that I put up. And also, if you have questions, or if you have any questions, or you want to jump on a call with me to kind of just walk through numbers, maybe you have something specific that you want to go through, I'm also going to put my Calendly link as well on it. So then you can just you can set up a call with me sometime this week, and I can run through anything else. So I put the link to the portal as well as the calendar link as well. Does anyone have any other questions? Okay. I'll give you guys about another minute. If you have any other questions, please feel free to put them in. Maybe it's a good thing I was really clear. Okay. If you guys don't have any other questions at all, I will go ahead and end. Like I said, you have access. Reach out to me, or reach out to someone from our team if you have any questions at all, and we could take it from there. But once again, thank you so much for taking the time to join me tonight to go through this deal. And I really enjoyed going through the whole process with you. If you have any questions, feel free to, like I said, reach out to me and go from there. But on that note, have a great evening.